best way to review Dead Rising 3 is to first talk about everything I loved about the games before it. In Dead Rising 1, the time limits were very strict. On top of that, you have to save survivors and bring them back to the safe room, which was a challenge in itself as the survivors' AI was not so good. Some say the stupidity of the survivors was a game flaw. I just found it as an obstacle I had to work through. Literally. With time counting down and survivors not following or not doing what you want them to do, you had to make on-the-fly choices in order to meet your next checkpoint, risking the survivors' lives. Dead Rising 2 also does this, but the survivors are much smarter this time and will do what you want for the most part. There was challenge and strategy planning your next route, and there may be some serious bumps along the way. Sometimes you fail. Reload your last save and rethink your strategy. With Dead Rising 3, this challenge and strategy is almost non-existent. There are notable traits that make Dead Rising 3 a better game than the predecessors in the polish and in the gameplay. Movement inside or outside vehicles is smooth and makes it very easy to go from one thing to the next. Because of this, zombie killing is more fun than in the past, and there are a lot more varieties of ways to kill said zombies, making the co-op experience one hell of a ride. There are an impressive amount of zombies that can be present on screen at once, and their AI is triggered to follow movement, flares, and sounds, and this makes for some really cool dramatic situations. But that, in my opinion, is the only redeeming quality in Dead Rising 3. In the past games of the series, zombie killing was a side to the main challenge of beating psychos and saving survivors in the given time limit. If you took too long screwing around with the zombies when you shouldn't be, and there were times for that, you could run out of time and never see through to the end of the story. Most of all, the tension was trying to get from point A to point B on a stretch of time so that you could see through to the end of the story. Zombies also posed more of a threat. Now it feels like they brought the combat to the forefront, and even on Nightmare mode, there lacks any real challenge as the zombies aren't very threatening and the time limits are generous. Survivors, when saved, for the most part, run off and you don't have to escort them back to the safe rooms anymore. When a survivor does follow you, you just drive far enough away from him and he will teleport to the safe room. No harm done. Survivors not being reliant on you to save them kills the challenge. Health works in half blocks now, and a perk recharges your half blocks to full. Magazines were removed from being held in your inventory, which was another strategy of inventory management. Now can be selected one at a time in your options. This whole thing breaks the overall strategy the previous games provided. You can also build weapons anywhere now, eliminating the need for a maintenance room, also reducing challenge. On top of that, everything you've picked up and built gets stored in your locker in your safe room, especially DLC. So go there, and you have full access to a plethora of weapons. This makes finding good weapons less of a scavenger hunt like before, and eliminated that challenge altogether. Did I mention it was too easy? The graphics are great, and there are some amazing facial details in the characters, but there's a downside to that too. It's desaturated and has got the blue and orange cinematic look that makes it very difficult to find the items you are looking for on the fly. There's a darker, more serious tone replacing the bright and colorful originals. And I'm just gonna say it, I don't like it. Even picking up items has changed for the worse. You both have to face the item and center it on the screen to pick it up. This seems to be the trick most of the time, but I have been wrong. It's aggravating when you're picking up every item except for the one that you want while the zombies start to surround you. This is not the kind of tension you should be going for, Capcom. On another note, Dead Rising 3 is missing that charm from the originals. Adding scary, spooky time industrial zombie music and placing the setting in a city that isn't even really that big, by the way, rids that charming clash of elevator music and violence. Also in past games, there were fun little mini-games all over the place. Gambling was a big one, and even strip poker. There was a money system built in so you could buy the keys to several vehicles and use them to your advantage in getting around quicker with your posse of survivors. See, that's strategy. Now let's talk characters. This time around they aren't very memorable. Bingo! Nor does the story really go anywhere significant, like in the past games. This character's actions still boggle my mind to this day. It's a joke, right?
It'll be alright, Jay. Okay, I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
Oh, Peter, I'm so scared.
It's like it knows something about when it was alive.
I mean,
We are all going to die.
What?
No!
I mean, why would she run out there? I hear some people say they like Nick Ramos, but he's always just saying, all we gotta do is calm down,
I think we should just calm down, man.
with no real personality traits. Some people say they like Nick over Chuck Green. I find that absurd. Chuck has a lot of personality and dynamic with his daughter Katie, and spoiler alert, but as soon as Annie injected herself with Zombrex in the beginning of Dead Rising 3, I guessed that she was Katie, Chuck's daughter, and I assumed Chuck would make a return near the end. Turns out Chuck is like a completely different person. I don't even know what to think anymore. In short, this is a Dead Rising game focusing on gameplay and very little on the story and character development, while removing most of the challenge and tension I appreciated in the past games. Nightmare mode is a joke. For some, this is the Dead Rising game they always wanted. Whenever I'd watch other people play the old games, they get so caught up killing zombies they forget that they had missions to accomplish. Other people I have talked to told me they wish the time limits were removed. Then I'd proceed to tell them that the time limit is the most important part. They would return some strange looks, of course. I'm guessing Capcom caught wind of those dislikes from people, and they listened, leading to the final product of this game. So a large number of people out there are probably thinking this is the best Dead Rising game to date now. If Capcom Vancouver decide to continue this streamlining for the mainstream, we may never see a game formula quite like Dead Rising 1 and 2 again. In closing, I did enjoy the psychopath fights and zombie killing and the side missions, despite the ease of the game. But zombie killing, no matter how many ways there are to do it, can grow very tiring without short and long-term goals or obstacles in the gameplay. This game I'd consider a one-timer, unfortunately, because I played through the previous games multiple times. Final score? 3 out of 5.